Hi, I'm Pam Buchanan, and I'm on the podcast Culture Matters with Chris.
Hi, Pam. Good to see you here.
Good to see you.
Wrapped in winter clothes, more or less.
Yes.
More or
When it
less.
gets to negative degrees, we all get our sweaters out. So I
But
wish I was in the sun and the
yeah,
beach, but
but okay. Well, then we have to swap places because it's kind of warm in here. It's going to be a warm day. Yes, I
send the
can.
warm weather, please.
All right, I'll send some over in a moment. Pam, it's I'm glad that you're here. As we said, as I told you in the beginning of this conversation before I hit record, I thought I'd seen everything in terms of culture and cultural angles, but then you came along with your profession, and this is something totally different. I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually see behind Pam the sign Soul Health and Quantum Sense. And then culture matters in international business. Let's see where we can take this. So, but first, do a bit of an introduction about yourself. So, this is my introduction question to you. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're
Mhm.
from, and what is your so-called cultural frame of reference. And cultural frame of reference means to what other cultures have you been more or less exposed, if any, really, which is not a
Mhm.
necessity, obviously.
Yep. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm happy to be on your podcast. Thanks for the invite. I am Pam Buchanan, and I have a 40-year business career, both in asset management, finance, as well as technology. I've had a fascinating career. I worked at Deutsche Bank, again in the finance world, and then I worked at NASDAQ in the technology fintech world. So it's been very, very exciting. I've traveled extensively, primarily in the US,
Mhm.
and really been focused on developing business for those companies. At the NASDAQ, I worked over 15 years, and I worked in Silicon Valley here in the US and took companies public. So that was very, very exciting, and got to meet fascinating people trying to build the future and learn something new every single day. So I'm blessed to have had a 40-year career that encompassed meeting a lot of people, interacting with a lot of people. And, especially in Silicon Valley, you do meet people from different cultures,
Mm.
not necessarily from the US, but
Yeah.
different countries across the world. So
Yeah.
that was fascinating also. And I'm based here right now in Chicago. That's why it's so cold.
That's why it's so cold. It's so white if I look through the window. My goodness. I'm
Yes.
glad I'm not where you are. Let's put it like that. So I'm glad where you are that you are where
Yes.
you are. So this when preparing, as I told you before, I don't prep a lot, but this sort of intrigued me as well. Um,
Yes.
Soul health. Um, so how do you, I mean, not how do you end up in NASDAQ or in corporate America? How do you get out of that? And
Yeah.
science, soul. There are a couple of questions. So take us a little bit from, okay, you're working at NASDAQ for 15 years. You're all
Mhm.
entrenched in corporate America, Silicon Valley included. And then you decide, okay, I can do something different. And what is it that you do currently?
Yeah, so I a consulting firm. So I consult with individuals as well as corporations, and talk about culture and the environment in within that corporate environment, right? So and my focus is soul health, which is, we know about our physical health, right? We all go and work out. So if I ask you, how are you physically feeling, you could immediately tell me, great, not great, my bones hurt, I've had a heart condition, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
And we all know, oh, have you been to the gym? Have you run a few miles? We all know about physical health. Then we know about mental health. that's come into conversation, right? So if I said, how are you feeling? You might say, wow, I'm depressed. I'm, talking to a therapist. That again is normal everyday language. But what we don't talk about is our soul. And we're made up of three parts: mind, body, and soul. So I want to introduce that to the conversation. What is soul? It's your soul's purpose. It is an energetic part of you and, part of your being, just like your physical and your mental bodies are. So let's start the conversation. How can we go deep? How can we access your soul? And hopefully at some level, we will be asking ourselves, what did I do for my soul today?
Okay, you got the answer from the dog already.
Yes, I got the answer
reply.
from the
Some
dog. Sorry
interaction.
about it.
No, it's all right. No, that's there are two cats roaming around here. And then and okay, that's soul health. I get that. The three
Yeah.
entities, body, mental, and soul.
So
If I'm paraphrasing
that's correct. Yeah, mind, body, soul is the
mind,
phrase that
body,
you
soul. And then
hear.
what does quantum sense have to do with it?
So quantum sense is I want us to elevate our being to the quantum level, right? To a new energetic level. We talk about quantum computing, quantum physics. It is a new energetic level that we're entering into. And then sense is about the five senses, because how do you get to know your soul? Let's elevate our being. Let's ask certain questions, get curious, and live our soul's purpose, live through our soul versus our ego in a sense, because I think we're all ego driven, especially you get into the corporate environment, that's where I think some friction starts. And if we come at it from a different perspective, I think that it improves the culture greatly.
The culture of the organization that you're working at.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
So what kind of question would you ask me? What kind of question would you ask person A or whatever?
So I start with, I have a process that I take someone through, which is first you ground yourself through your senses. And I apologize, my dog is continuing to bark.
That's fine. That makes it real. We're having a real
It
conversation.
makes it real. Yes, we're having a real conversation. So I would ask yourself, I'm in this environment. How am I taking this environment in? Through your senses. We all have five senses, but your senses are telling you when they go through your nervous system and your internal dialogue might tell you something different than my senses do. So we're each individual, but what does your environment look like? So what does it smell? What is the sound of your environment? What is the visual aspects of your environment, the color of your environment, the furniture in your environment? Is it all put together so that you thrive in that environment? Think about it. If you walked into a dark room with dark furniture, heavy furniture, let's say wood paneling, you might be oppressed, right? You might be like, oh, that's heavy.
Sure.
We want lightness and we want people to thrive and enlighten in terms of their corporate environment, not to shrink. So I talk a lot about that. So start by asking yourself questions through the five senses.
Okay. All right. So that is your approach within your consultancy firm, correct? Yeah. Having or thinking about this, that you have experience in the workplace in corporate America, and now you've pivoted to, is it a form of neuroscience as well, or is that too far?
Yes, it is a form of neuroscience, and I'm not going to say I'm the expert in any of this. I've studied, obviously, and read. But that's why I put together expert also. So let's say I go in and do an introductory course in the five senses and how to elevate your energy and go into the neuroscience, how it affects your nervous system. But then I can bring in experts around, there's color experts, there's sound experts. You hear more and more about sound and how vibrationally that helps you heal even at the cellular level. So that I bring in as we build out the program, and the more depth that the organization wants, I provide, but I do not come in and say, oh yes, I've studied neuroscience for the last 20 years, because I haven't. I just know the importance of it, and I know the basics of it.
Okay, well, all right. You don't have to be a car mechanic to understand how a car works.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Or the belief. I'm very passionate about the soul and what we bring to the world as individuals. So I think that if, again, all of us could elevate, say, hang on one second.
Okay. We're having a dog conversation here for those of you who are not watching.
Yeah, yes, we're having a dog conversation.
Dog
I
animals
think he
have
wants my
souls, so why
attention.
not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right. So I think that, I'm passionate about that and bringing that to the workplace, because I think that is the key that's missing. We all have, gym memberships. We all have insurance that covers, the mental health aspects and mental health days. So we talk about that a lot. We've been talking about it, let's say, for the last 20 or 30 years, right? And there's still something missing in the corporate culture. And what is that? What are you bringing to work? Is it your full self? And your full self is your soul self. So, yes, it's very important, obviously, to be physically and mentally healthy, but also to be at your soul's best. And so let's look at the world in a different way. Let's open up our curiosity, if you will, and see how we can explore that. And I feel that companies will become more productive and enhance the commitment and thus the longevity of their employees.
Okay, so that's a interesting concept, and a nice segue to my other question, or my next question is, this is a very soft skill, or a soft part of
Yes, it
corporate
is.
business, if you want.
Yes.
If I think about that, and if I think about, and my understanding of the United States, it's quite a goal-oriented. I don't want to use the word masculine, but okay, for lack of a better word,
You
but
can. Yeah,
a very
I understand.
goal-oriented a very goal-oriented, my goodness, culture is,
Yes.
and in comparison, say, to Scandinavian countries, to my own country, the Netherlands, we're much more process-oriented, or much more soft quality of life, these kind of things. Does this resonate in corporate America, the stuff that you do? Or is it, or people do people brush it off as and say, well, profit comes first, and then we'll look at your soul, and then, the rest is later. So,
Yes, I will say that there has been, it's been an uphill battle to a certain extent to get corporations, and I haven't gotten the traction that I would like. That's why I want to reach out internationally, right? Because I think, as you said, companies elsewhere might embrace this a little bit more. But I think the US is headed that way. Obviously, the younger generation are the ones that are saying we're unhappy in the corporate America right now. We need, and so people are listening to a certain extent. But yes, it is a challenge to get them to open up, because where are the metrics for, this type of program? And it is more non-metrical, if you will, if that's even a word.
Well, yeah, but it makes me think of there's I think it's an every year thing, the World Happiness ranking or indicator,
Yes.
where people are happiest, and where people are least happy. And in general, what comes out in general, there's a trend over the years that mostly Scandinavian countries, people from Scandinavian countries, tend to be happier than people in more goal-oriented or more masculine countries. Right? And even
Yes.
richer countries do not need to score a lot better. Is it does it make sense for you then to start more at more or less goal-oriented countries, like the Scandinavian countries, like maybe, I don't know, the European countries or Asian countries? I don't know.
Yeah,
Not.
I think that it really depends on the sector also of the business, right?
Mhm.
I tend to target, let's say the Silicon Valley companies that are on the cutting edge and trying to, develop the future. Those companies seem to be more receptive than your traditional, let's say your industrial companies, your even your finance companies that tend to be maybe a little bit more goal oriented, and not want to bring in quote unquote different types of programs. The other obstacle is people do equate the soul with spiritual religion. And, the soul is not about religion. It's about your being. So that also has been a challenge. And the fact that when you mention soul, some individuals, corporations automatically think you might be heading into the religious aspect of it.
Right.
And that's not true at all.
Yeah.
Just like you go to a doctor for your physical health, you don't give over your body to that doctor, and again, but it's a resource, right? And religion is a resource, to possibly enhance your soul, but that you don't give that over, but people equate the two closely together. So from a culture standpoint, that has been an issue in terms of selling and wanting companies to embrace this.
And getting a
I do
foothold.
think that I'm on the cutting edge, and that in the next couple of years, this will take, more of a front row seat, if you will, because the importance of it.
Okay. Is it, and then somewhat maybe more provocative question here is with the coming up the political shift in the United States, being the world economic powers, etc., military power, all that good stuff, and all the stuff the other stuff that's going on worldwide, climate change, poverty, whatever, the food, etc. Do we have time and space for this? Where's your place? Where's your place, as in soul health and your quantum sense? Where's your place in all the other things? The energy transition, I forgot to mention. Aren't we? Do we have time for this? Or
Yeah, I think it is important to start looking at ourselves differently, right? And we each contribute. And if each of us are in our soul's work and soul's passion, we're at a higher level and hopefully solve these problems that you mentioned, right? So it may not be on the forefront. People put it on the back burner, but I'm trying to get it to the forefront. So yes, initially you might say, listen, I'm trying to solve, bigger issues that may be at a crisis level. Well, let's start this program slowly, and have your employees asking themselves these questions and elevate their being. Because I truly believe that as we elevate ourselves into a higher energetic being, because, energy is important. We're all, as Nikola Tesla said, all things are energy and nothing else matters. So let's get beyond some of these traditional ways of thinking, and that's how we're going to create the future.
okay. Okay, building on that, what you just said, you talk about, I think I got this from your LinkedIn profile, is you talk about a so-called new paradigm.
Yes.
What is your new, well, maybe start explaining what a paradigm is in the first place. Then what is the old paradigm, and what do you consider being your new paradigm?
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, it's a masculine world that we live in. And
The
so
US typically, right? Yes.
let's say US typically. So that the old paradigm was built on certain structures. And let's say whether it is corporate structure, religious structure, healthcare systems, and all of that is breaking down right now. As you said, we have a new president coming in, new ideas, and the time as far as breaking down this new, breaking down the old to rebuild the new. And I truly believe we're headed into a softer period where the essence of a person is going to be valued. It's about the essence of the being, not about, oh, wow, look at you, you ran 5 miles today. Yay, 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 pat on the back. And isn't he or she, wonderful? Does that translate into skills at work?
Right.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
it's the essence of the person that translates into those skills. And so I do believe the new paradigm we will see, and a paradigm meaning a new world, if you
Hmm.
will,
Yeah.
how we interact in that new world. And we haven't had this for hundreds of years,
Mm.
right? So, we've been working on the old paradigm for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it just doesn't work anymore. We're out of the industrial age. We're out of the agricultural age,
Hmm.
where physical traits maybe were more valued. We're heading into, let's say, intellectual age, which we've been in for quite a while. Now I think we're headed into more of a soul's purpose, energetic essence of a person.
Mm. Okay.
And it is harder to understand because it
It
is so
is.
new. It
Yes,
is
it
really hard
is.
to understand. And I think that once you start asking yourselves these questions and looking at yourself a little bit differently,
Mhm.
even though you can't see the soul, it's there, right? We have to be as comfortable as, okay, here's my physical body, my mental body, if you want to equate that to some of your intellect or your feelings, if you will.
Mhm.
You can kind of tangibly touch those, but let's start to tangibly touch, the soul's essence of each person. And I believe at the soul's essence, everyone is not fear-based, positive based.
Okay. I'm
In
gonna.
one word, the old
Uh-huh.
paradigm is fear-based, and the new paradigm is love-based.
Okay, I'm going to. This is you just created your own nice segue to my other question, which we're gonna make it a little bit more difficult because this is again I think I plucked this from your LinkedIn profile. This is quote
Yes.
unquote. What are you hearing? Question mark. And then you say the 639 hertz, 639 hertz solfeggio, I think frequency known as the sound of love and harmony. It balances
Mm-hmm.
emotion and attracts
Mm-hmm.
positive energy. Um, for
Mm-hmm.
me, for me, Chris, and within Culture Matters, the company that I run, nothing seems to be, for me, nothing is culturally neutral. Why would you consider this 639 hertz frequency is universal for mankind?
It's been studied and studied for quite a long time,
Uh-huh.
so that these vibrations bring up the level of energy that we all have as beings. So there's just certain practices. In fact, they're now using sound to help, Parkinson's disease. And so it's the vibration and
Hmm.
it's measured in hertz, right? So universally, if you and I listen to that, our energetic being, not our physical being, but our
Hmm.
energetic being at our deep cellular level will elevate to that love-based feeling. So we can measure energetic frequencies, right? So let's say you walk into a room, you've probably done this, where you feel heavy, right? Like the crowd is heavy or there's some tension there. You feel that in your body,
Hmm.
right? And if we're to measure that energy of the room, it probably would be a lower vibrating room. But then let some sounds, some frequencies in that room, we could feel it elevate as a collective. So I think the more we listen to those types of frequencies,
Hmm.
then our bodies, just like sleep refreshes us, right? You
Hmm.
go to sleep, they say it refreshes at your cellular level. The same thing with sound.
Okay.
It refreshes you at your core self. So I want to talk more and more about that is the sound. And I have different types of frequencies that I play.
Okay. It's an interesting realm to explore. I
Yeah. They use it in meditation, right?
uh-huh, that's logical.
Meditation,
Yeah.
yoga. And it's more ancient cultures have used this to, again, just align their being
Right.
and
Yeah.
be more, we want to be more fully present. I
That's
apologize.
all
I'm
right.
really,
It's all right. What's the dog's name?
it's Bay. Hang on
Just
one
yeah,
second.
why did you show her or him or her? I think her. At least be part of the conversation. Um,
Yes.
There we are.
Usually Bay is at daycare. So the
That's all right.
daycare,
This
this
is
is Bay Breyer. He's a little boy. He's a Welsh Terrier.
okay.
Yeah, Bay, this is Chris. Mommy's on the
I
podcast.
urge everybody who is only listening to the podcast here to switch to YouTube and look up the this lovely brown reddish. I have no
Yes,
idea about dogs, but it's a dog at least,
yes.
and it's a boy, so that's good. All right, Pam,
It looks
just
like
keep
a
the
teddy
dog there. That's fine. I'm going to ask you two last questions. Give us a couple of tips to become, from your experience, to become more culturally competent, if you can.
Um, I would say when you walk into your environment,
Yeah.
ground yourself with your senses. So that gives you a sense of security, a sense of alignment, so that when you do interact with someone that isn't in an alignment, you won't react and you'll ground yourself within a positive place versus possibly that person coming at you in a negative place.
Okay.
So don't react. Pause, ground, and then have the conversation.
Okay. All right.
So that's one thing to
Yeah.
do as you're engaging with people around you. And then, hour by hour, check in with yourself. Hour by hour, check in.
Mm-hmm.
Say, where am I? Have I veered off and, gotten into this negative space, or am I still in my positive space?
Mm-hmm.
And if you've veered off, again, go back to center and ground yourself. It takes only a matter of seconds to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And look around your environment. And again, go back to your five senses.
And would you have a third one?
The third one would probably be, we're entering into an age of softness. So ask yourself, what can I bring of myself that is the soft part of myself?
I'm making some notes as you speak. All right, excellent. It's good. It's good stuff. It's a little bit on the outside of what Culture Matters usually does, but nonetheless, it has been an interesting conversation. One last question: if people want to know more about what you do, how can people get in touch with you should they want to?
Go to my website, which is thequantumsense.com. Again, thequantumsense.com. And or my LinkedIn profile at Pam Buchanan.
Okay.
Yeah. No. Please reach out. I'm open to conversation and would love to discuss this more. I know it's something new. I really appreciate you asking me to be on your podcast and explore this new topic, and welcome the insights and questions and dialogue.
Good. So same here, same here as well. As I said, it's a bit on the side of what Culture Matters usually does and talks about. But nonetheless, if you don't live on the edge, so to speak, you're taking up too much space.
I love that saying.
Yeah, me too.
I love
it. I'm trying to find some of the borders, that and then trigger some people's interests. So if you want to know more, get in touch with Pam. And Pam Buchanan, thank you very much for your time and effort in cold Chicago. Thanks to the dog as well being part of the conversation.
I am so sorry. Thank you.
That's fine.
Thank you for your understanding.
It makes it a real conversation.
And send some sun our way. Thank you.
I will do my best. I will look northward.
Yes, please.
All right. You have a great day, and thanks so much for the conversation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.